This is Smile Business Diary, a DSD podcast. All right, welcome, Dr. Kristen Donohue. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It is such a pleasure to have you on this podcast. I see you as somebody that's more of a humble person that doesn't really boast a lot about themselves. So I'm going to take the bull by the horns right now and ask you if you'd please tell us all the great things about you that we see all the time and what your practice is like today. Just kind of tell the audience who you are as a person in whole and how your practice is running today.
Sure. My name is Kristen Donohue. I practice in Burke, Virginia, which is a suburb of Washington, D.C. How I got here, it's kind of a long story, but I grew up in Western Pennsylvania. I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania, and then I went to college in Western Pennsylvania, and then I went to dental school in Western Pennsylvania. And I think I was ready to experience something new. So I decided I'd heard good things about residency programs in the U.S. Army, and I knew that would probably take me outside of Pennsylvania a little bit. So I actually was able to get a scholarship and a residency program through the U.S. Army back in 2000. So that was exciting, and that sort of started me on my dental journey. And of all places, I was able to be stationed in Hawaii, which was, a dream come true.
Poor thing.
I know. Oh no, it was a terrible hardship tour.
Right.
So there I was, being a resident. I had the most amazing mentors, and I'm learning to surf on the side, learning lots, and it's a really cool. If for anyone that if you don't know anything about the military. I had no experience with the military prior to this. It's just a really neat experience to be part of something much larger than yourself. You're part of this huge organization and you have this very specific mission, but you're just surrounded by amazing people and their stories are so motivating. And I could go on and on about that, but I love the patriotism that came with that. I also loved, you're getting paid to exercise and be in great shape. That was great. So there's just a lot of things about the military I personally enjoyed. I enjoyed the large clinic environment, just surrounded by specialists. I was constantly learning from them. So that was my first dental experience. And then I met my husband while I was in Hawaii, which was wonderful. And we got married there. And then we ended up coming back. We both got out. He was in the Navy. I was in the Army. And we both decided that we wanted to be on the East Coast, closer to family. And we ended up in the Washington, D.C. area. And I've been here ever since 2006, 2007. And it's been a journey. I thought I would work for someone else for a brief stint and then realized I really wanted to own my own practice and, just kind of create the practice of my dreams. And it took a while. It didn't happen overnight. But I'm very proud of what we've built here. I bought an existing practice from another dentist who was retiring, and it's been a journey.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that more. I want to ask you, did you went into the military after your bachelor's? Is that when you decided to join?
Actually, in dental school, I was a first-year dental student.
Oh, so you were already in dental school and then joined.
Yes,
Oh,
correct.
interesting. Okay.
Yes.
Because most people, I think, for medical or dental, they go to the military because they need the resources to go into dental school. So you kind of went the other direction. How did that work out?
Well, it's a scholarship program. So
I
as my debt was mounting,
okay,
Yes.
okay.
they come up to you and say, "Hey, how would you like to pay for this?" So
I'm like, you can't only want to be in the military. There has to be something.
No. I mean, all the other things are great too, but it was great. It was wonderful graduating from dental school with no debt. That was
Yes,
that was
I
incredible.
mean, so I think a lot of people fear to go into the military for various reasons, right? So Would you be able to shed some light on the realness of it? Because obviously you've done well for yourself and it's worked out for you. So what was your experience like in that?
Well, when I, signed the dotted line for my uh, for my scholarship, of course, it was 20 plus years of peacetime. While I was a resident, of course, 9/11 happened, and
Oh,
we were
wow.
no longer the U.S. was no longer at peace, and I watched hundreds of thousands of troops being sent to Iraq and then Afghanistan, and of course, my name was called. So I do have some war stories. I did go to Iraq in 2004 and 5, and it was not easy, and it was
Yeah.
some pretty tough assignment,
Imagine.
but I can tell you, I grew as a person for sure. I was, in a pretty remote location. I worked for a time in a prison, which I will never forget. Just looking around in my tent, my clinic, and thinking, with my prisoner patient who was in pain, and I was extracting a tooth, and here I am with he's in shackles, and then there's an MP there with a weapon, and
Right.
there's a translator there for me to speak to the patient, of course, my assistant, and I looked at I just looked in the mirror and thought, "What am I doing here? Like, how did I get here? This is ridiculous." But again, I'm really good at extracting teeth now.
Could be.
Hello, I'm just taking a quick break from this podcast interview to tell you how you can get started with DSD. If there was anything that our guest has mentioned that strikes a chord with you, or you are curious about becoming a DSD clinic, I encourage you to book a call with me. This is a 30-minute, no-obligation information sharing session in which I can answer your questions about DSD and discuss your options based on your unique circumstances. The link to schedule a call with me can be found in the notes on this episode. Now, back to the interview.
So you got education out of it for sure.
Yeah, good
Wow.
professional experience.
I mean, this is a very unique experience, I think, for especially being a female as well. You don't think that, especially during that time, that they would have females go over there. Um, what was that like? I know you touched on it, but just to go a little deeper into it, what were your feelings at the time? Being a dentist, like this is what you're headed towards.
Mhm.
But of course, life around you interferes sometimes. Um, like, what was the experience like? And then what were the biggest lessons you learned from that?
Well, I mean, you are definitely a soldier first and a dentist
Okay.
second. Um, and actually, as in a medical company, like I was deployed with a dental unit out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina,
Mhm.
and we had dental clinics spread out all over the country. And there were actually, I wouldn't say there were equal number of women, but almost as many women in our unit. So that in itself, being a woman, wasn't
That
that
wasn't
difficult.
weird.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, they really, I think the military's come a long way in that regard.
Oh, yes. That's true.
Thank goodness. But you never forgot, you were in a war zone.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it was a real deal. And then, when I was in Hawaii, of course you are doing PT and working out, and, you have to pass your physical fitness tests, and, um, you have to fire your weapon, quarterly, and, pass your
Mhm.
milestones with that. So, yeah, it was kind of fun playing soldier. I enjoyed it. But I have to go back to the clinical experience was really great too. I really did learn a lot. I'm still in touch with some of my mentors that I worked with, and yeah.
I think one of the misconceptions I think about being a military dentist is the and don't kill the messenger, but I think that a lot of the perception of it is that it can almost kill your spirit being a military
Mhm.
dentist in a way, because you're and a prison dentist as well, even more so. So will you elaborate a little bit on how that experience was and how you're still such a ray of sunshine today?
I mean, I think that experience and my experience in the military did help me write one of my core values, which is quality over quantity. You do become a high volume dentist in that environment. You know, while there's great experience and there's great mentors and lots of learning going on, there's also that high pace, fast production, so many patients. There's never a shortage of patients.
No.
And I knew when I went into private practice that that wasn't what I was looking for. So I think that's what kind of, you know, made the decision to leave the military easy for me. It wasn't that I didn't, yeah, it wasn't that I didn't enjoy it. I just was ready for a new challenge.
Right. It was a chapter in your book. So it sounds like you had your core values pretty set from the beginning. Are they still the same today?
I think so. I think, you know, most of us probably, whether we've put pen to paper and, you know, written them down, I think most of us start to establish our core values early on in our practice. And I could definitely say that, yes, some of mine were written early. Others have evolved over time. But definitely core values are an important thing to me.
Absolutely. What are let's say the top 3 core values for you right now as a business owner in dentistry?
Well, we have 6 in my practice.
Oh,
Okay. No, actually, I could bring any team member in here right now, and any of us we could name all 6.
This was not staged. I'm genuinely asking. So it's amazing that you have this already.
Yeah. Yeah, no, our core values are so important. And we don't just, you know, a lot of people have them, you know, on the wall, or they, you know, have them in a handbook somewhere. But,
Yeah.
you know, we talk about them all the time. You know, we try to live and breathe them. So it's more than just some words on the wall. But I will be happy to share. Quality over quantity is the big one that I knew that I wanted to have a more boutique practice, smaller, more, you know, specialty, more, you know, comprehensive care. Our second core value is long-term success. And that was where I think, you know, DSD kind of fit right into that value, because I knew I wanted comprehensive dentistry to be part of my practice. I wasn't looking for the quick fix. I want patients to have the best possible long-term success and long-term care. Third core value is, this is a good one, respecting time. I really think it's important to respect our patients' time. You know, when our appointment starts at 8, I want it to start at 8. I don't want it to be 8:15. I don't want it to be 8:05. I like to start our appointments on time. And I don't know if that's a military thing, but I just know in medicine, we wait and we wait. It's so frustrating. No one wants to wait.
I would back that one. Anyone listening, stay on schedule.
Yeah. So, and our patients really do appreciate that. And then they respect our time. They show up on time for their appointments because they know they're going to be seen on time. So it goes hand in hand. And it also goes with my team. Like, I feel like I respect their time. You know, we finish our workday at 4. I don't want people here till 4:30 or 5. Like, I really want to make sure we're walking out the door as close to 4 o'clock as possible. I think it's important to respect all our time. Another core value, and again, this is definitely fits with DSD, is always learning.
Yeah.
I'm a CE junkie. I love to learn. My team, you know, that's always, whenever I'm interviewing a new team member, I'm always curious to hear their answer of, you know, how do you like to do CE? And if they say they're not that into it, you know, that's not a core value match. You're not, I don't think you're going to fit in here.
Right.
So always learning is a big one. And then the last 2 core values we have are related to our team's culture. And the first one is we over me. You know, we try to like make all our decisions based on, you know, what's best for the team over ourselves personally. And then last is all in. So, if you're
this is
just,
amazing. And how did you put this together? And I mean, you have it written out so nicely. Was this something you wrote from the very start and it was done, or did you develop these over time?
These were developed over time. I did work with, I do have full disclosure, I worked with an amazing practice coach. And I love, for your listeners, of course, if anyone's considering coaching, I really strongly encourage it. I worked with an amazing coach with ACT Dental, who, if any of you listen to Kristen Coachman's podcasting, you know, Crick Barrett with ACT Dental is, his coaching team is phenomenal. They are great. And that's one of the first things that they want you to articulate is what are your core values? And you can't be vague. You can't say like excellence, excellence is that's a good thing to shoot for, but what do you mean by that? Like,
Correct. Right.
what's your definition of excellence? For me, excellence is running on time, is long-term success. It's like those are my definition of excellence.
Right. That's amazing. What other tools can you say have worked? Because the coaching I completely agree with, and DSD has implemented a coaching of its own. But I believe you joined the clinic certification before the coaching program, so you didn't get to experience. But I'm so happy that you went through ACT Dental, amazing group. So, what was it about like the coaching or any other tools that you feel really made a difference for you?
Sure. I think coaching really helps you dial in on your systems in your office.
Okay.
I think it's just so easy to you're just running with the current and things are happening around you and if you don't have tight systems there's just too much unpredictability. And I think
Yes.
having an outside person come in and have you like really hone in on your systems, I think that's really valuable. And having it not be just you, but someone who's seen this
Right.
at 100 other practices and can say, hey, have you thought about this? Or why don't you try this? So I
Right.
think
How did you come to terms that you needed coaching in the first place? Because now that we've launched coaching of our own in DSD, this is one of the challenges I personally see is um, people don't believe upfront that they really need it, or they find the excuse that I don't have the time and I just can't dedicate myself to this. What was it that caused you to say this was the way to go, and I know this is going to work for me?
I think it's just my personality. I've always been I've always been an athlete. I've always been coached, in my life. And you don't know what you don't know. And I think it's good to take a humble growth mindset in everything that you do in life. And why would your practice be any different? To me, it just made sense to me. And maybe that's not true for everyone, but
Yeah, yeah. So for those that are struggling, that because you clearly believe in the coaching yourself, for anyone that's struggling to go in that direction, what would you tell them?
I would say just, unless you've got it all figured out, or maybe you do have great mentors that you don't necessarily need a coach. Like that's on you. But really, you think you got it all? That's, I mean, I don't know. I really think you should
Not get censored.
look inside yourself and say, are there some points I could stand to improve?
Right.
I
Right.
think we all could.
Yes, and routinely, right? Not just once, but every so often. That's amazing.
And then I
So
just other things I can tell you that I gained from coaching, besides tightening our systems, was that we just created a culture in our practice, and I think creating a positive work environment is just, I think, the most important thing. I want to be surrounded by people that love where they are and want to
right.
be there. We're all working towards this common mission, and I think a coach can also help with those things and creating, like what are steps that I can take to have better communication in my office? People always talk about communication. We need to communicate better. Well, how do you do that? Like you need to know,
Right.
well, what are some ways to do that? And, like a coach will tell you, you need to implement a huddle every morning. You should be having team meetings regularly, um, talking about what's working, what's not working. I like to do check-ins, periodically. I try to do it quarterly, and I guess we used to call them, performance reviews, but I
Right.
think when dial it down a little and call it a check-in and really just talk to your team members and find out what's besides, work performance, what's going on in your life? Like how's your mom doing? I know someone was in the hospital recently. Can you tell me about that? Because I think the relationships we have with these, in my case, 10 people I'm surrounded with those are the 10 most important relationships.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. The office itself, will you explain, what kind of dentistry you're doing today and the team that you have, get more elaborate on how your practice runs right now?
Sure. We are definitely a restorative focus practice. Myself and my associate, Dr. Beta Ellis, we both love restorative dentistry, and I can say DSD has certainly become an integral part of it. We look at cases differently, I think, definitely more comprehensively, and the ability to show patients, what we're thinking is just been
Right.
invaluable. Yeah, it's so great. So some of the systems that Act Dental, helped us fine tune are, how we hand off patients to one another, meaning, when the patient comes in and sits down, how the doctor's introduced, how we go from, the doctor coming into the hygiene op and, again, the introduction, the pass off from the hygienist to the doctor, and then the doctor back to the hygienist before I leave the room. Um, when the patient's ready to leave, we never let them wander around the office, you know, where am I supposed to
Right.
go? What do I do now? It's always you're escorted to the front. We repeat the same things that the doctor just said so that the patient hears it again. And then the scheduling coordinator hears it and, gets them back on the schedule. And so the patient's,
Consistency. Yeah.
yes, the patient's hearing this message, this message over and over again. So they know, oh, that's what's going on. Oh, that's what I'm coming back for. Oh, that's how long I'll be here the next time. It's just, yeah, lots of clarity. So that's a big one. Um, Another system, this is what ACT helped me with the second, I did 2 rounds of coaching with them. The second round of coaching was becoming fee for service, and they helped me drop my dependence on insurance. And I really wish I had done that sooner, but I'm there. It took me 10
Yes.
years.
Congrats. That's a
Thank
big
you.
jump. And I think a lot of people want to hear more about that. So if you would share, what that was like and the good and the bad and the ugly.
Sure. Going at it alone, it's terrifying. And that's what kept me from doing it. So when I had, this coach behind me saying, let's stop and let's look at your numbers. How many of your patients have Delta? How many of your active patients have Delta? Delta was our last drop.
Okay.
And, those numbers, I wish they were smaller, that they were big numbers. But most of them were longtime patients that had been with the practice for many, many years. And I had great relations with them. And, it just seemed like now is the time. We have this level of service that people, they see, they get it. And we did a process where, they gave us a timeline. They recommended 6 months to write a letter, send that letter out to all the patients involved. And then in that 6 months, hopefully we would be seeing almost all of these patients for at least one recare visit. We would, sit that patient up, and I, as the doctor, would do a knee-to-knee conversation with them, looking them in the eye and explain, here's my why. It has nothing against you or your insurance. I just, I hope you see this level of care that we give, and, know that we want to invest in the same level of great care. And Delta isn't interested in that. They want me to see more patients and spend less time with you. And that's just not where I want this to go. And they got it.
Yep.
And no one, and very few
That's
patients left.
beautifully said. Okay, that was going to be my next question. What
Thank you.
what the result was, because that's the ultimate fear, I think, for most dentists dropping their insurance. Right? Is I'm going to lose all my patients and then I'm going to have nothing. So
Yeah.
how did you prepare for that? Were you
Well, I
expecting?
mean, our coach helped us with that. I mean, they gave us some scripts so that, we could all kind of practice, because it wasn't just the doctor, they were certainly having that conversation at the front, when patients were
Yeah.
checking in and out. Hygienists were having that conversation while they were cleaning patients' teeth. Assistants might be having that conversation when the doctor's not in the room. It was like we all needed to be saying the same message. And
Right.
it was hard, but the first 10 times, those first 10 conversations were really hard. And then the next 10 got a little easier. And then by the time the 6 months were over, it really wasn't a big deal at all. And yeah. Anyway,
Wow.
it was daunting, and I'm just so glad I had the help of someone to just kind of walk me through. And here's what you should do next. Here's what's next.
So there is a step-by-step program out there
Mhm.
that people can follow, it sounds
Yeah.
like. And now I understand why you mentioned you wish you had done it sooner.
Wow.
Is there anything else that, looking hindsight that you wish you would have done earlier?
Other than, coaching sooner and certainly becoming fee for service sooner. The third thing I might do differently would be to learn more about KPIs or key performance indicators about my practice. I mean, that's something that they absolutely don't teach you in dental school. And these numbers are really critical to the health of your business because, in the end, it is a business. And we, want to make sure that the day-to-day decisions we're making are also helping your business. And there were, some stats that, I was used to looking at production and collection and all the usual things, but, like what is your annual patient value? That's a statistic I
Right.
never thought about. And again, with some coaching, I was able to look at that number and, see what that number across, all of your patients that you treat, that value, if you keep it above a certain level, I believe it's like over 800, it means that you're treating a patient more comprehensively than just they come in for their
I
exam,
see.
you fix that one tooth and that's it, one tooth dentistry.
Right.
And, I think we've gotten ours up to $1,200 or $1,300 now. And that just means that we're seeing fewer patients, but giving them the kind of care that they deserve and they need.
Right. Right. So that to my understanding falls under diagnosis and treatment planning. Is that true? What you're talking about?
Certainly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, being able to describe why a patient needs something is really huge. And that I'll say, technology has made my life so much easier. Having an iTero, for example,
Right.
to be able to visually show a patient tooth wear or recession or, things that are going on that they've never seen before, but then they can see it visually, especially with the time lapse. So they're like, oh, well, let's take care of that. Let's go. So
Yes.
the dentistry
The
solves
most.
itself.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, absolutely. That was actually going to be one of my questions for you is how digital technology like 3D imaging, laser dentistry has changed for your practice or changed your practice rather. Um, I mean, the communication piece is major. But what other parts to the digital technology today can you say has really impacted your business?
So I'd also say that, we are like a functional occlusion practice as well. We want our
Mhm.
patients to be stable and healthy, their bites to be healthy. So something that I introduced to my practice actually because of DSD was tech scan. That's a technology where you can evaluate a patient's bite. You have a patient bite down on a
Oh,
thin
yes.
T-scan.
T-scan.
You have them bite, on a thin, like a film that records their bite. And it's like almost like a time lapse. You can see which teeth are hitting first, what's
Right.
hitting it the hardest. And we routinely do that now at the end of every ortho treatment, whenever we, deliver restorations. And I think that's a differentiator that makes our practice different. And
Absolutely.
people understand like, oh yeah, when I got that crown at that other dentist's office, they didn't do that. And my bite was off for a very long time. So I think those are the things that make our patients' lives better and it makes my life easier.
And it almost takes the risk of being looked at as the bearer of bad news almost, right? Off your shoulders a little
Right.
bit. Because I've heard from many that it's like you get these patients from other practices that maybe had not the best outcomes and not the best diagnosis. And so then you're the one that's telling them, hey, you have some decay here and there. And oh, my last
Mhm.
dentist never told me this. And so technology, I think, plays a role in that as well to help us
For
out,
sure.
thankfully.
Yeah, those are awkward conversations. You try not to ever make the other dentist look bad, but you're like,
Right.
well, that's what I'm seeing today. Uh,
Right. Or I'm not even doing it, it's the machine.
Right,
The
right, right.
machine's thing.
Just look at the computer.
Right. So about your practice, what are your weekly non-negotiables as a business owner? It sounds like you've got your systems in order. What are the deal breakers for you?
I think my new non-negotiable is I don't ever consider treatment without first considering orthodontics. And I've always relied on orthodontics and it's been important, but I think even more so now, with how, it's a little bit easier to have patients accept, clear aligner therapy like Invisalign than braces. So that was often a tough sell in the past. And, I like all my patients to understand that if their teeth are better aligned, it will always be a better outcome. And, while it is a little harder in the front end, your dentistry will last longer. I might get to do less dentistry because of it if we can have a stable bite. So yeah, making sure that the patient has a good stable bite is number one. The second non-negotiable is I always want to know about my patients and their sleep. I think, we've overlooked sleep so much in the past. We've handed patients night guards without really like asking the right questions. Like, well, why are your teeth worn down? Why, like, tell me about why you're tired all the time. Let's talk about that. So we actually do have a home sleep study that we let patients take out overnight. We call it a library book. You can take it out for the night, and they come back. We download that information from the home sleep study, and then we can share that information with them, whether that be referring them to a sleep physician or if it's something that we can help them with.
This is something I see of you since the first time I met you. You're an amazing business person, of course, but outside of that, you're a mom and you're a veteran and you're a coach yourself, which I learned through the grapevine. I don't know if you knew that. There's so much to you that I think is beneath the surface that many don't know about you. Can you share with the audience, how you manage your personal life? That was amazing. But I mean, you brought your kids to Cape Town, which was like, no one's doing that but Kristen. And, we had this event in Cape Town and you're just so involved. And I think that's a hard concept to understand for people who are so invested in their business, right? To be able to keep that balance and be the ray. I keep calling you a ray of sunshine, and it's ironic because that's the name of your practice. But it is you really to the core. So I would love for you to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, having that balance is, I think, the biggest challenge. It's so easy to want to put it all in every aspect of your life, and it's at a certain point you just have to make some choices. I need to spend time with my family first, and that's always been a priority. So I don't know if you're asking what's the secret. I haven't found it yet, but I do love to involve my family as much as I can in the things I'm doing.
I would assume you have very strong boundaries, just in order to do that. What would be your strict boundaries in regards to, keeping that time and that relationship with your family?
Yeah, I do not check my email when I'm at home. That's a strong boundary. It annoys people to no end, but on Wednesdays when I'm off work and on the weekends, no email. I just don't go there. But
And then with emergencies, how does that work?
So with emergencies, I do share my cell phone number if a patient, has an emergency. My cell phone number is always on the answering machine at our office or voicemail. So patients can reach me, but don't email me.
Got it. You don't have to be a real emergency.
Yeah, you won't hear from me till Monday.
Yeah. And if you are, let's say, busy coaching your daughter's volleyball team or, traveling to Cape Town with your family, who handles your emergencies?
Right. So that is my amazing partner, Beta. Beta Ellis is my associate. She, holds down the fort if I'm away. And it's so funny that you say that too, because ever since I, started in dentistry, I've always tried to like bring home a positive attitude about how much I love dentistry to my family. And my 3 children have zero interest in dentistry. Like nada. Like they want nothing to do with dentistry. That's kind of funny, but that's okay. They can do their own thing.
I think they're still so little. There's so many times where people start out that way and then
Maybe they'll change their mind. Maybe they'll change.
Right. So what are your plans then? Like, what does the future look like for your practice?
Well, I definitely can see me doing some traveling over the next year. I'm planning on doing residency too with DSD. We'll see if my fam will come along with that. I don't know. We've never been to Spain as a family, so that might be exciting.
Yeah.
But I just again I'm so into learning, and if I have an excuse to go learn something and get a nice vacation out of it, I never mind. Um,
Absolutely.
but beyond that, so I do have a little one now. I have two in high school, and then I have my 4.5-year-old Rosemary. So yeah, so I guess I'm not going anywhere anytime soon.
Or they'll go with you.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll be here working for a while. I'm not planning on retiring anytime soon. But I don't want to. I love what I do, and
I mean,
I feel like I found the best profession I could ever find. It's just a nice blend of talking to people, and I get to lead a team. And I'm an artistic person by nature. I love art. My parents were both art teachers. So, I get to do these little art projects every day. Yes, I there couldn't be a better profession than this for me.
yeah, I mean, you're such a great fit for this field. I keep saying you're sunshine because you are, but you've got that. And then
Thank
just your
you.
drive for the CEs. Um, it's very impressive. What CEs are you looking at right now at the moment?
Gosh, there's so many hands-on courses are where it's at. I love I Am Press, Amanda Seau and Tony. I'm trying to think. Nostrantonio. Anyway, he's amazing. There's yeah, I love their hands-on courses down in Charleston, South Carolina. I'd love to do some hands-on courses in Europe that I have some eyes on.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But I love to do hands-on. That's the best.
Hands-on in any topic, or even there's so many CEs out there.
Yeah, that's true.
That's challenge for most to figure out, where do I invest my CE budget into? What would
That's
you
true.
recommend? Because you've done a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I love the restorative courses. Although I'd love to also there's a few dental dam courses that, it sounds basic, but something I've implemented in the last, 3 years was, it's a non-negotiable now. We do everything with a dental dam.
Yeah.
And I always feel like I could be doing that better. There's better, faster ways to do
There's
things.
so much controversy over the dental dam. I feel like it's like, it's so much faster for me to just do the filling, or what are your thoughts on that? Because I know your side, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be, if you're not using it, you're wrong. It's really, it's that important. It's just such better isolation. I don't know.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, there's always going to be someone that's like, I can do it without.
I know. I know.
So there's such a-
Celine Higdon. I think that's the name of the instructor in Europe that I'd love to see. She's,
Okay.
I guess, does some pretty great dental dam courses. So
Yeah, it's a game changer for sure, just for the peace of mind alone. So that's amazing. And then, as far as, the future, I have a question for you because we're getting near the end. How do you plan to protect your private practice today, from the growing presence of the DSOs and the trend of being bought out, while also distinguishing yourself and staying relevant so patients choose you over others?
mm. Yeah, I mean, I've certainly thought about this a lot as I'm, approaching the end of my career. I'd love to sell my practice to a new graduate, or a person rather than an entity.
Right.
But I often wonder if, when that moment comes, and that that check is three times greater from a DSO, I don't know what I'll say. But my hope is that, I can maybe mentor someone that could possibly buy my practice. And, and again, we're small enough, and, maybe that it won't be as outrageously expensive for a new graduate. That's my hope.
Yeah.
But I also, at the end of the day, it's a business, and I'd love to sell my business and, support my family too. But I think you have to have, you know, my practice is kind of like my fourth child.
Yes.
Truly. I feel like I've taken this baby, and, I've helped it grow, and I don't want to see it handed off to just anyone. I'd love it to be
Right.
to, someone that also wants to love on these patients and treat them in the way that, is absolutely in their best interest and not just for the dollar.
Absolutely. So how would you go about, the risk of losing your patients to corporate offices coming around you? Um, what do you feel is going to be your differentiation factor, or the step above the rest of the offices around you that will keep you afloat, during that time? Because I think a lot of people expect this to come at some point, and you're going to have to, maybe brand yourself or do something that will keep you relevant. So what do you feel your thing is?
I mean, I think that's what we're doing right now. I think there's always going to be a place
Yeah.
for smaller boutique but dental practices. There's a certain kind of patient, and that's what they want. And there's
Right.
going to be other patients that's not necessarily as important to them, and they'd rather go. Literally, my next door neighbor is a DSO, and patients will wander over and come in as new patients and say, "Wow, this is very different. This is a
Yeah.
very different experience." And I'm
Yeah.
hoping that they go back to their, Facebook pages at home and, tell their friends or,
Right.
and let people know that Sunshine Dentist is very different than, a
Well,
corporate
see
dental
for
office.
themselves. Absolutely. And
Right.
I think too, one of the parts to this is knowing what you have, taking ownership of your worth, right? As a business owner, as a practice, and your boutique element to it, and knowing the value behind it. Because I think, just with people in general, not even in business, but there's this underlying fear that you're not good enough, or you're not gonna um, be good enough in the moment when there's competition or challenges that arise. But if you go in with the mindset like you've shown, where it's like, you know what, I'm who I am and I know what I've got, and people will find me and they will bring people to me themselves. That's, I think, one of the biggest key elements to it is just knowing your worth. And so, I don't know if you
Yeah.
agree with that or not, but that's what I heard from you there.
100%. And I think that comes with confidence over the course of your career.
Yeah.
I say I have a little bit more swagger now than I did at year 5. I was still just trying to figure it out. And
Right.
I think becoming fee for service also was a big confidence boost because I realized that not every patient puts money ahead of, they're not
Exactly.
gonna, yeah, they're not gonna not come and see you because they only want to come for a discount. They're there because
Yeah.
they really do care and value what you're giving them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was reading your article that our marketing team at DSD put together on one of the cases you did with us. And something unique in there that I read is that you felt a lot more confidence in speaking to specialists and speaking about your work to others. Can you tell us how that happened, and what that was like?
Sure. I think the documentation that goes into a DSD case, the scanning and the photos, lots of intraoral photos, it really helps. It's helped me communicate with my specialist. So even if there's a specialty procedure like aesthetic crown lengthening, which I don't personally do, I love being to hand off cases to my periodontist that does those for me in a way that I look like I know exactly, I am the quarterback now instead of
Right.
sort of handing this off and saying, I hope this turns out well. We'll see what I get back. Like I like being able to call the shots, and I think that comes with confidence, and it comes with the tools that DSD can give you, creating these crown lengthening guides based on your design. Like those are
Right.
the things that make you look like you're in control of the case and exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And takes care of any of the doubt, I think, beforehand of uh, your own, diagnosis of, is this the right way to go, or whatnot. More minds the better, right? And so having that collective intelligence, it's a game changer. So I'm so happy to hear that, and to read that. And any listeners, I highly recommend you read her story. It's the comprehensive what is it? Comprehensive Dentist Case Studies. So, it's a great story, going from single tooth dentistry for the most part to comprehensive now, no insurance, just fee for service and sunshine everywhere. It's the dream.
It is. I'm living the dream.
You are. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Kristen. Thank you so much for sharing everything with us. It's been really insightful, and you did amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria.